my first nail tutorial here on YouTube. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to size my nail tip to fit perfectly on my finger. Typically, whenever you do your sizing for your nail tips, you want to make sure that it fits from side to side. You don't want it too big or too small, as that could cause lifting or air bubbles to get underneath the nail, which will create them to lift and come off faster. So what I'm doing now is I'm just filing down the nail plate just to give it something to grip to. Typically when you're doing an actual nail, you want to file down the nail plate just to get rid of any oils or shine from the nail. And some people, if you're a beginner, it's easier for you to file the nail and then use a dehydrator and a bonder and a primer just to make sure that your nail is well prepped. After that, I'm going to just get any kind of nail glue and I'm going to go ahead and glue my nail tip on. So I also like to look at it from the client view just to make sure that my nail tip isn't crooked. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just cut my desired shape. The shape I was going for was a square. I still wanted it pretty much like the same length it already was, so all I did was just cut the number off of the tip of the nail. And again, looking at that client view just to make sure that it's not crooked or cut crookedly as well. So now that I have it cut to the desired shape, I'm going to go ahead and file it as well, just to make it more crisp and clean, and just to make sure that the front is as square as I can get it. So I went ahead and blended my nail tip to the nail. That's what that filing is from. Maybe I'll show that in another video how to do. So the desired design that I went for today is an ombre. So I'm getting ready to go ahead and just dip into my white powder. I'm going to apply that first at the front of the nail tip. I'm going to go from the middle of the nail down to the bottom. I just take a wet bead and I'm just going to drag that down. Next, I'm going to go ahead into nude powder. That's going to be my second color for the ombre. And I'm going to, again, take a wet bead of that, and I'm going to apply it to the top, closer to the cuticle area. Now, I would say, just as, I guess, like a tip, so you don't flood the cuticle. I know like some clients, they like to hold their hands up because they want to see what you're doing. Try to keep their hands focused down, like how the nail is actually sitting right here. You want to keep it downward so that the acrylic doesn't go back and flood the cuticle, because then you have a harder time with cleanup, and also like filing around that cuticle area. And that's sometimes how you get acrylic stuck to your client's skin. And that could be a little painful too when you're trying to file the nail, or they try to peel it off. Also, while you're doing that top part of your ombre, that's also what's called the apex. That's where, if you can build a good foundation of the apex, it's going to be least likely that your nails are going to break or crack. Also, just another tip that I feel helps me with getting that real like ombre effect, and not really like two separate colors, is I feel like you want to apply more pressure at the top when you're putting the bead down, but as you wipe it down, you want to have less pressure so it seems more flowy, and it gives you more of a like a flawless like ombre. Also, if you just take a little bit more liquid onto your brush, if you have like a really harsh line, just take a little bit, like a clean brush, a little bit of liquid, and just go right in that middle part where they meet, and just brush it down lightly, and it should break it up a little bit and make it look a little bit more flowy. It will take some time, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't done ombre as frequently. And now I'm going to add a little decal just to the front of the nail. Now, I will say with ombres, and especially if you're going to do any type of encapsulation, you don't have to use a lot of acrylic for the base part, like the white and the nude. You don't have to use a lot because you're going to put the clear over top. So that can be your thickest layer. With any type of ombre, I typically encapsulate, not just because I'm putting the decal on there. I feel that whenever you do an ombre and you encapsulate it with clear, it gives you less room for error whenever you file, because that's another thing. If you do an ombre, when you file, that's gonna take away that ombre effect that you have if you file too low, or if you don't have enough acrylic. It can change the total outcome of what you have already built. So anytime you do an ombre, I suggest personally to use a clear cap to it. So now I am just trying to adjust the decal just to make sure it's where I want it to be. I put the clear bead over top just so it wouldn't move while I'm applying that clear cap to the nail. Sometimes I'll put a little dot of clear down first, then stick the decal on top. I guess it just depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. So now I'm just putting that clear cap on the nail, and I'm going to drag it down the entire nail, just to encapsulate everything. And then I'm going to let it dry, and then we'll file. So now that that nail is dry, I am going to go ahead and file it down to my desired shape. Um, Typically, if your application's good, you don't have to do much filing. The nail file that I am using is an 80/80 grip. It's a more rough nail file, but for me, I feel that it gives me better results as far as my shaping goes. I would just say that if you're someone that's rough with a file, just to be careful using it on a client so you don't nick them. So now I'm getting ready to go in with an E file after I'm done with my hand file. And I'm just gonna go over the top of the nail just to make sure it's nice and even, and the apex and everything is nice and even and smooth. And then I'm also gonna take, I believe it's called a needle nose drill bit, and I'm gonna go around the cuticle area just to make sure everything is nice and clean. Also, I know you guys just saw me close my acrylic. One mistake that I made when I first started out, whenever you're doing any filing, please make sure that you put the lid on your acrylic powders and even your monomer. I know I left mine open, but I knew the file shavings weren't going to get that far over. But just please close it, because any bit of files will get into your product and then your product is pretty much contaminated. Also, same for, like, I don't know, if for some reason someone's playing with their hair or something like that. Any little thing, if it's open, can fall into your acrylic powder. And then you have like issues where you go to pick up your acrylic and you have dirt in it, or nail file, or like the filer. Whenever you use the filer and it's black, the grit from it gets in there. And then you have like these little black dots, or you have glitter in it, and then it causes issues with your product. And yes, I do know that my nail is a little crooked, but that's what I meant by doing that client viewed. It's very important so you can see from their point of view on if the nail is straight or crooked. Because if you see right here, it looks like it's straight to me, but when you flip it up to that client view, you can see that it's crooked. But just for the purposes of the video, I just left it how it was. But you can, if you make little errors like that, you can fix it through shaping. And also when you lay your acrylic, you could add more to one side than the other. So once I'm done filing, I'm going to go ahead and put my top coat on, and I'm going to show you guys the final product. If there are any questions you guys have for me, or you want to know what products I use, just leave a comment down below. Also, if there's any future videos you'd like to see, or different nail shapes or different techniques, leave that comment down below as well. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.